One heart at a time. I was born in Dover, Ohio, and I graduated 1990 at Dover High. I was incredibly lucky to have this amazing art teacher named Janine Kennedy, who was not only a mentor but a friend to all the students, and she really inspired many of us there at Dover High, and I am grateful for her. The other inspiration in my life is my mom, June Contini. She is the most selfless, hardworking woman that I know. I'd watch her paint as a little girl, and you know, I say I'm self-taught, but I'm taught by watching my mom in all aspects of my life. Not only do I have these two incredible women that I look up to, but I wake up every morning and I thank God for everything I've been given. Everything, you name it. My 2 feet, my fingers to paint. Without my spiritual belief, I'm really nothing. After high school, I actually, I went to Ohio State for 1.5 years, and that didn't work out too well. A little overwhelming. I really just knew that I needed to try out the college scene when actually it took me 7 years to graduate from college. I never really thought that I was going to be this pop artist that I'm coined. I actually thought that I was going to open up for U2 and be one of a lead singer in a band until I started singing, and everybody was thinking I'm a lot like Phoebe on Friends, and that dream died fast. I knew I wanted to do something more, and I knew it was outside of Ohio, and being at Ohio State was great, but I packed my bags and moved to Miami and started to really discover myself when I was on the road. In Miami, I met incredible friends who then said, "Jen, you better get out of here because you're going to be on a raft to Cuba with your ukulele." So I went up to North Carolina, got my grades up, and from there I moved to Connecticut, where I studied art history at SUNY Purchase, and I was a nanny, so I put myself through school. That's where I really started to paint. I discovered studio classes and didn't get a degree in art. Art history was what I graduated with. So in Greenwich, Connecticut, on my off time, I would paint and go look at art galleries. Actually had a little part-time job at the Greenwich Public Library where I would work in a gallery, and every weekend I would go into New York City, and that's where I was like, this is where the magic is going to happen. There's so many things that I love about New York, but waking up every day in this city where, I hate to use the word melting pot, but all nationalities and ethnicity, and just being anonymous, so to speak, in your day. People in New York, they just beat to their own drum and they don't care what you're doing. I knew that this was my home, and 25 years in New York. So here I am, a mom in New York City with 3 kids, living downtown in Battery Park City, and I knew I needed a space to paint and create. My first studio was in not an abandoned firehouse, but it was a converted old firehouse in Tribeca where artists would go in, and it was divvied up into little spaces, sort of like McGillicuddy's art studio here in Dover. I started painting trees after trees, and then with all lives, you go through little rough patches, and I did go through a divorce, and my therapy was actually to paint every day in a studio on Mercer Street. It was right there on Canal and Mercer, and I'd go in and I'd paint some dark stuff. Some dark stuff was coming out of me at that time, but it got me through. And when I got through, I started with the hearts, and heart after heart, one heart at a time. I walked into a cafe called Peace and Love Cafe on Greenwich Street there in Tribeca, and put my artwork up and start selling. And it felt great. He had no artwork in his cafe, and I said, it was called Peace and Love Cafe. I said, I'm painting hearts. He goes, put it up. And a guy from Helsinki, Finland came in, started buying, and a lot of traders there on Wall Street were coming in, and Then I had a show there. My first show was at Peace and Love Cafe on Greenwich Street. We had a bunch of artists. I curated that little show. It was fun. And then I did Art Expo, and I had a designer come in and ship a huge piece to Miami, ironically, and I was like, wow, I can do this. This is something, this is my passion, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I never had a gallery in New York, but I went into Brooklyn and I had my own studio there in Red Hook. And there I painted this large piece behind me. This piece is called Heritage Red, and I painted this piece after Hurricane Sandy. I remember after the hurricane, a lot of artists lost a lot of their work below because there in Brooklyn, in Red Hook, it flooded horribly. And I was on the 3rd floor and my work was unscathed. I took this piece behind me and it actually somewhat painted itself because I was upset and just took all this paint everywhere and picked it up and I said, I'm finished. And I walked away, and that's the result of Heritage Red. Painting in Brooklyn was some of my best work, I feel. I started with these pop hearts, and they've traveled all over the world. I've had a show in Paris. I've had, several shows in Soho. I went all the way to Rome and did a show there. It's been awesome because I've shipped hearts to Australia, South Korea, you name it. Like, these pop hearts are everywhere. But I listened to every story. I would write it down on a notebook, and they would say, my mom has breast cancer. She's been following you on Facebook for years now, and could you just do a pink heart? And I'd be like, yeah, I can do a pink heart. There's been amazing stories. One where this woman literally was on her deathbed in Florida, which when I got the message, thought that it was spam. And she said to me, my last gift that I want to give my husband is one of your hearts with a tree. The lady was real and sent me the address where I sent the tree, and I told her that I painted it and I sent it to her husband. And when she had read on Facebook, when you can see that somebody's read your message, it'll do a check. And once she saw that I had shipped that painting to her, she died. And that's a true story. That's a crazy one too. I can't even talk about that. I love the abstract artists, Jasper Johns, and I love Jackson Pollock with the spills. So yeah, I would say that like Jasper Johns is definitely one of my influences. I throw my paintbrushes into the piece when I'm finished, and obviously when you see me spilling and dripping, it's inspired by Jackson Pollock for sure. Another artist, Jim Dine, Ohio artist actually, who paints hearts. I think he's pop art, and yeah, he beat me to it though. He's got hearts all over, and they're going for millions, but that's all right. But he doesn't make a pop heart, not like I do. The Hamptons was a great place for me as far as being close to the water, the ocean, and just having that accessibility to New York City. And there I painted a lot of series of water. Beaches in Winter is what I called that series. And one of those paintings, that one went to Australia. Yeah, so then I'm back here in Ohio. I got married to this incredible man named Stephen Cunningham. He makes dreams happen. He got me. He got me on the level of like, whoa, yeah, 33-year-old. He's got some energy. And he was like, let's do this gallery. We can do it. We haven't even been married a year yet, and we open up a gallery, and there's gonna be a lot more happening. It's a great journey ahead.